Good morning to everybody. It's a little bit of a gloomy morning out there, but that will change a bit over time here as we go ahead, and I'll talk about general directions. But the long and the short here of our outlook anyway is that we're looking for some significant changes, certainly in temperature, given the recent very summer-like weather. For the past week, starting with our mean temperature departures here on the left-hand side, you can see it was not surprisingly warmer than normal over much of the upper Midwest, including much of Michigan, 1 to as many as maybe 5 or 6 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Exceptions to the far southeastern part of the state where it was pretty close to normal. But again, this actually is a day out. If we included yesterday's max and min, those areas will be above normal as well, because it was, as I think most people appreciate here, we've had a very summer-like spell over the last several days. But that is over, and we're headed in a different direction now. On the right-hand side here, which is also interesting, looking at precipitation totals for the last week, you can see, with the exception of upper Michigan, where we saw some, quite a few areas with 1 inch plus totals, especially up in the Keweenaw, much of lower Michigan, less than 1/4 of an inch, and many areas were dry for the last week. So for most of the state, it was a drier than normal week. And at least for the southeastern portion of the state and east central, that was a big change from where we've been for much of July and August, with a lot of heavy rain. So it was a break, at least in that pattern, for that part of the state. So again, looking ahead here, where are we headed? Well, there's a pretty strong direction here, and that's cooler and drier. As we look into it, and actually drier. We've already been dry for much of the last week, but we would say cool and dry probably is more appropriate. But looking here at a jet stream forecast for the middle of next week on the left-hand side, and you can see troughing over much of the central and eastern part of the U.S. And at the same time, on the right-hand side here, these are surface temperature departures from normal. Lots of blue there. Cooler than normal conditions indicated, with the ridge that's been, we've had ridging over much portions of the U.S. for a lot of the late spring and early summer, heat dome, et cetera, et cetera. The warmer air with the pattern next week will be out west, and some right along the east coast. But for here, more in the middle of the country, it does look like a very, very cool week with northwesterly flow aloft. That's the bottom line here for at least the next week. This morning, looking at the weather map, we have an area of low pressure and a fairly strong frontal system here, cold front, moving currently through the eastern portions of lower Michigan. There's a lot of light green there on this particular image, suggesting lots of precip. And if you look at the actual radar, it's a lot less than that. There's some scattered sprinkles here or there remaining as this front makes its way through. It's not moving fast, it's not moving quickly, but it will move out of the state here over the next few hours. And there will be some lingering. There's a lot of moisture at the low levels with this weather system. So I mentioned gloomy here earlier. We will see lots of low clouds, stratus, and probably some drizzle in spots and a few sprinkles here and there. So looking at a fairly, certainly much cloudy and a much cooler day. We will see highs ranging from really right now in the upper peninsula, only mid and upper 50s. Temperatures won't rise much here today, but we will see further south temperatures at least 15 degrees cooler than they were over the last couple of days. So again, highs from the upper 50s north today to upper 60s to near 70 in the south. So much closer to the normals, and actually a little bit below normal. By tomorrow, the system moves slowly off to our east. There will be still some lingering clouds from the system and maybe a couple sprinkles here and there. But any precipitation that occurs either today or tomorrow, we're looking at, again, sprinkles, a couple hundredths of an inch at best, and most areas will remain dry, although it will be gray and cloudy both today and a good chunk of tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, you can see the H's out here. There's high pressure moving in. This is a Canadian origin air mass, and it will bring, finally, we will start to see some clearing or changes in sky cover here during the day tomorrow, but there still will be a fair amount of clouds around the state still, at least for part of the day. Tomorrow, by Saturday, high pressure firmly in place over the region. That'll be the case on Sunday as well. The weekend actually looks pretty nice, but cool. And we will see, as I mentioned, the temperatures downward. We will probably see high temperatures on Friday, still mostly in the 60s. Lows generally in from the 40s to near 50. It is possible with clear, calm conditions here over the weekend. I think this is especially true on Saturday, maybe on Sunday morning as well. We might see some patchy scattered frost in only in interior areas and low-lying areas, probably of northern lower Michigan and maybe portions of upper Michigan. I think that'll be it, but it is a sign of the calendar and where we are. But this is not expected to be any kind of a widespread outfit. It'll only be in specific spots. But it's a reminder again that we are moving in. We were in the second week of September, and that's not too far off from what we typically see this time of the year. Elsewhere, again, low temperatures generally in the mid and upper 40s and low 50s here for the weekend. But actually, Saturday and Sunday look nice, as does mostly Monday. Now, after today, the next chance for any precipitation that we're looking at will be the frontal system you see out here on this map for Saturday morning. That arrives by late Monday. So the next chance for precip probably in the Upper Peninsula would be late Monday, but for most of the state, it would be on Tuesday. And again, it's the guidance has been fairly consistent. I think we will see some precip with that. And it could be, well, it'll be more significant than anything that falls between now and then. So our total amount here for the upcoming week through next Thursday, generally looking at that quarter to half inch type of range. So most areas drier than normal for the upcoming week. And the majority of the precipitation you see here in the map, that's what's projected for early next week, for next Tuesday. So not much between now and then. Some places here had some pretty significant precip yesterday. That's going to drain off, or we'll have the dry conditions now will help get things firm back up again before the next chance early next week. In terms of water use, I know some people are still working with irrigation and some water management, but given the outlook you've just heard, including lots of clouds in the next couple of days, relatively low potential evapotranspiration demand or water demand here at the upcoming week. Most areas just about 1/10 of an inch per day on average, so significantly less than what we've seen over the last, back into the summer for the upcoming week, or lower than normal water demand for the upcoming week. Into the medium range. Well, the outlook you see here, both the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day outlooks are similar. This is for, again, the 6 to 10 day, which is next week, 12th to the 16th. You can see troughing, which is what we showed here earlier in the image, right over the Great Lakes region, and not surprisingly, cooler than normal mean temperatures. After that next weather system I mentioned early next week goes through Tuesday. We'll probably have a new batch of Canadian air to move in with cooler temperatures. So I think the coolest period next week will probably be on Wednesday and Thursday, with some moderation after that. But the very, very strong likelihood, though, that our means will remain below normal. And as you can see below that, normal to below normal precipitation totals. If I would have done that, I think I would have put us all in below normal. That's I think a fairly northwesterly flow trough situation, probably below normal. 8 to 14 day time frame is very similar. Now, that said, there was a new updated outlook here for the month of September that came out just at the end of last week, and I think this is important because it does suggest probably maybe towards the end of the third week of the month that we see another big pattern change, and that pattern change includes ridging once again over central and eastern parts of the U.S. And as a result of that, notice the big difference here. We go to warmer than normal mean temperatures, and that has been consistent for the last several days. And again, the confidence in that, I think, is a little bit higher than normal. It also suggests, as I mentioned before, drier than normal conditions. That's the here below. Now, some of that we saw last week. Remember, this is the month of September, but I'm guessing that we will see in our medium range, or 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day timeframes here in the next few days, we'll start to see that transition from the cool and dry to the warm and dry. So that's I think a major message that we probably are looking at a warming trend towards the end of the month, certainly for that last week of September, if not maybe a little bit before that. And given where we are in the season, I think that's probably favorable news for most people in terms of where they are. Certainly with regard to maturation and some early dry down, that should be helpful scenario. And that could likely continue on into October. So summarizing here, again, fairly cloudy and much cooler, so noticeably cooler here today and tomorrow. A few showers lingering, but nothing significant in terms of precip. And then a fair, we'll call it a very cloudy here, but dry and cool weekend coming up here, but nice, generally nice weather for Saturday and Sunday, and probably part of Monday. Next chance for rain coming most places by Tuesday. And then, as you saw, a repeat a little bit here with another cool air mass moving in by the middle of next week. But that pattern may be breaking down here probably by about a week or week and a half out. And that's all I've got here this morning for weather. And I'd like to shift gears here and introduce next week's speaker, Dr. Marisol Quintanilla from the Department of Entomology. And I know those of you who know Marisol, she's going to be with us to talk about monitoring nematodes in soybeans. So don't miss that. Again, that is 1 week from today on the 14th. And with that, I'm going to hand it back here to Phil.